My volume is okay for everyone. So before I begin, I just want to say a quick note about the material that I'm presenting. Almost all the material that I'm presenting are copyrighted by the Professional Development Group and licensed from TTI Success Insights. And the materials are for your personal use as an attendee of this webinar, not to be shared or distributed without written permission. That housekeeping item, let's move on to the presentation. The title of the presentation, How to Communicate with Your Sponsor, How to Speak to Your Sponsor so they can hear you, was really just a focus on a specific audience, in this case, the sponsors. But the materials that we're presenting, that I'm presenting, will definitely help you in life and anybody you work with. And I would encourage you to, as we go through this presentation talking about your sponsors, I would encourage you to come back to this webinar at a later time and think about other people that you are communicating with or having difficulty reaching out to or feeling like you're not heard by that person. So with an engineering background myself, I know that when I first got into management, it was really a challenge for me to recognize that most work issues are really not related to technical problems, and that they're really related to people working with other people. So I think part of that is because people come from different backgrounds, they have different judgments and different skill levels, and they, we judge other people that we're dealing with. We assume we know what they're going to say or not going to say and things like that. So it's a common misconceptions about communication. But then there are also just different styles, motivators, and competencies, and even emotional intelligence that sort of get in the way when we're communicating with other people. So today we're going to focus on two of those things that I've listed, which is different styles and different motivators. How do you recognize those and adapt to those so you can be heard when you're communicating? We all had situations where we walked out of a meeting frustrated, or we feel like we know what we're talking about, but somehow we're just not getting through to the other people. So I want to address that, especially when dealing with your sponsor. So let me, and you can jot notes to yourself along, throughout the webinar so that you can focus on what we're talking about and what you're learning throughout. But a couple of questions for you for that frame of mind is, do you know your sponsors well enough to know what they want to hear and what they value? Do you know what's important to your sponsors? And do you know the communication style of your sponsor so that you can adapt your style to say things in a way that they can hear you? And that's, there's a lot to that than meets the eye. You can say, well, of course I know what my sponsor wants, on time, on budget of my projects, or, better productivity or what have you. But there's a little more to it than that. What we webinar is help you identify the other person's, maybe in this case your sponsor's, communication styles, under their own communication preferences and how that may be different with your audience. You can adapt your style to enhance the communication and build better relationships with everyone. And in addition to the communication styles, we're going to talk about motivators. What motivates you, and it may be different than what motivates someone else. Recently was coaching a vice president of sales for an organization, and he said he was tremendously frustrated that he's selling something, in this case software, that's going to enhance everyone's productivity and make them so much more money, but somehow it's fallen on deaf ears. And we identified through our work together that he's not really speaking to what would motivate the other person. Maybe return on investment is not the most important thing for that person, or maybe a short-term gain in productivity is not important. So we need to adapt our communication to how people can hear it. So let me jump into couple of the examples so you can see what I'm talking about. We ask you, do you understand what motivates somebody? We are really saying, know why they do what they do. So if you don't know why, you should be observing their behavior, and you should be thinking, now that's strange, why are they volunteering at this, animal shelter, or why do they donate so much money to this organization, or, why do they get up at 5 a.m. in the morning and do what they do? You have to start, why do they do that? And so you have to look at, what do they value? What are the things that they talk about that's important to them? What causes them to take action? Are they committed to this ideal, this perfectionist in a specific area, and they're willing to sacrifice, whether it's time, material, or their talent, to realize that ideal? Concerned about the social good of the team, make sure that everyone is satisfied, happy. They want to provide excellent service to customers or suppliers, or perhaps they're looking to create a better world, a better society, a more harmonious, more peaceful society where, everyone takes care of the environment and so forth. Or are they driven for power and a position, title? No, and the answer to these questions. Are they driven by continuous learning? Do they care about knowledge for knowledge's sake? Or is the most important thing to them return on investment, financial return on investment, money? Is that the most important thing? Why? So about the different motivators, I listed probably 5 or 6 different motivators right there. Are the things that we value either positively or we judge negatively. So they're not the same for everyone. Maybe money is very important to me, but it's meaningless to you, or vice versa. So if you keep talking about how we're only here to make money, that may turn me off, or it may actually motivate me. So you need to know that lands with the other person. What's obvious to you, or in air quotes, obvious to you as a motivator, it's really not motivating the other person sometimes. So we see the world through the window of our own motivators. So we may look at one window of a house, and we see something, and we think that's what everybody sees. But what we don't realize is they're looking out of different windows, and they're seeing different views, and they're happy or sad about different things. Motivators are the values that will cause us to take action. So as I go through some of these things, like is money important and is knowledge important and so forth, you may say, yeah, they're all important. But the question is, would they impel you to take action? Do they actually motivate you? Yes, they're all important to us to some degree. But do these things cause you to take action, to go the extra mile? That's what a motivator is. If the two of us have the same motivators, have different styles, and maybe we have different beliefs, different religion, different background, whatever, we would still value the same things in life. So let's talk about those 6. So Edward Springer, probably more than half a century ago, created the values of men, what motivates people, and he basically categorized motivators in these 6 categories. There's the theoretical motivator, utilitarian motivator, aesthetics, social, individualistic, or traditional. And I'm going to go through all of them in some detail. And in his work, he talked about how, these are the things, these are the categories of things that are the whys of what we do. Let's start with the first one. Theoretical is the motivator that focuses on knowledge. So when I'm going through these slides, I'd like you to think about your audience, your sponsors in this case. So